Peace, 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 IG, Daniel KC1 NCF, tapping back in with you. This is going to be a new series that I'm doing, survival tips of the day. I'm going to strive my best to put one out every single day. That's going to include story, a photo, and a live. The duration of these lives, I have no idea how long they're going to be. It's not, sometimes some of them might be quick tips, some of them might be a little drawn out, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that you get something from the tip and that the tip itself is something that you can benefit from. So survival tip of the day. Survival tip of the day, number one, is watch the weather. Watch the weather. Now, this is a very important tip, and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan has told us year after year, time after time, to watch the weather. He tells it to us as a warning to those who believe in the last day, those who believe in the scriptures, those who believe that there is a God and that there's a time coming where all reckoning will take place. So watch the weather, fam. That's survival tip number one. Now, the reality is this. According to an article by Global Citizens, in 2020, 3 times as many people were displaced by adverse weather events as were displaced by war and conflict. And the reality is that that number is increasing exponentially year after year, meaning the number of people who are displaced by natural disasters year after year, you have to multiply the number. It's not enough just to add a few thousand or a few million. You have to multiply that number. Y'all partying. I'm walking past a construction site. It's kind of loud over here. They're over here putting some bricks and stuff. But yeah, so according to the article, 3 times as many people have been placed by adverse weather events and have been displaced by conflict and war. And so even on a daily basis, it's just good to know and understand what's going on with the weather, not just in your city, in your state, but in the cities and states around you, in the world, in the country. Look, pay attention to the trends. Pay attention to, I don't care what you call it, pay attention to the global climate shift. You might not want to call it global warming. You might feel some kind of way about that. I don't know. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference how you look at it or how you think about it. The reality is that there's something going on, and the weather is severely affecting a lot of people in ways that, you know, some people, you could say, predicted or scientifically made an assessment and said, no, this is how things are increasing, and we've seen it happen. There's drought every year. The drought in America grows exponentially. Every year, the amount of wildfires that take place in California grows exponentially. Every single year, the hurricane season starts a little sooner. It's a little bit more intense. Even if there aren't as many hurricanes, they become more intense year after year. I can't say that grows exponentially, but it definitely grows. And so we have to be paying attention to this stuff. I don't know if you've noticed over the last 3 years, y'all might have seen it this year, a lot of sinkholes, meaning under the earth, the tectonic plates and things are shifting. The amount of earthquakes that are taking place, that grows exponentially. But these are things that you won't know if you only watch the weather on a local level. If you only watch on a local level, then if something extreme's happening with the weather in your area, yeah, you'll know about it. But there's a lot more happening than you know. Like what's happening with the algae bloom in Florida. You know, people in Florida are aware of that. People who live, you know, adjacent to Florida, they're aware of that because the waterways, you know, it affects more than just Florida. But up here in Boston, most people aren't going to know that unless they took a trip down there and seen some kind of, you know, boil water advisory or something like that, or they're just paying attention to that news. But if you watch the weather on a daily basis, you know, you can get that heads up and realize that there's a lot of preparing we have to do for the reality that as that number grows, like it says in the Global Citizens article, we had an earthquake in Maryland. See, and when was this? Sister Q Minus is in the comments. For those who are watching the replay, you can't see the comments. He said there was an earthquake in Maryland, and you know, I've never experienced an earthquake. I've experienced some I can't say it was too serious because I grew up around snowstorms. But I mean, to some people, the kind of snow we experience up here in New England, you know, which we haven't experienced heavy snow in the last 3 years. The last 3 years has been very mild. It's actually getting pretty warm over here on the East Coast, in city like Boston. You know, our winters are not as harsh over the last 3 years, 3, 4, 5 years really. Our summers seem to be getting hotter or more consistently above a certain temperature. They seem to start a little earlier and a little later. It's a complete shift, and it's not minute. Friday and yesterday, see? And how often, if you don't mind, how often, I don't know how long you've lived there or whatever, how often the earthquakes typically happen in somewhere like Maryland, at least some that would be registered or well known. You know, because there's earthquakes that happen everywhere that don't register or don't register high enough on the Richter scale for them to tell people about it. But if you're talking about it, then likely it's something that came across the news and it registered high on the Richter scale. She said Friday and yesterday. And so, but my point is that you got to watch the weather. Now, we just talk about it on a day-to-day basis. You know, there's something what we call in the survival world, fitness world, EDC, which is your everyday carry. This is going to be, and I'm going to do a survival tips about EDC. This is going to be, you know, something close to a go bag or a get home bag, but it's just a bag, or it could be a fanny pack for somebody. It could be a briefcase. It could be a purse, or a regular, you know, duffel bag like that you use to go to the gym or something like that. Or it could be, you know, EDC, which you put in your vehicle if you always with your vehicle. But it's basically the things you carry every single day, so that no matter what situation and circumstances you find yourself in, based on your knowledge, your training, your understanding, you'll have what you need at all times to be able to mobilize and handle whatever obstacles may hit your path. She said they're not common, but we've had a few around this time every 2 to 3 years. Okay. Now, is the intensity different? You know, its intensity, is it get worse year after year, or time frame after time frame? So, you know, that everyday carry, because if it's going to be raining outside, why would you want to know the weather? Because you would want to know if you need to carry an umbrella. But people who live in places like California, they might watch the weather and watch the news to figure out, okay, well, have any new wildfires sprung up overnight or the day before, and how fast are they moving and in what direction? Is it in my area? Is today the day I'm going to have to evacuate? Is there a cell or something like that developing off the coast down south that the people in Florida, Mississippi, and all those other southern states have to be worried about, so that, you know, when they leave the house, it's not a situation where, oh my God, I got to get back home and collect all this stuff. No, you can leave the house knowing, okay, well, there's a strong potential this thing is going to make landfall, and so I'm moving out today. I'm taking this with me, I'm taking that with me. But just watch the weather, fam. That's survival tip number one. You know, one of the number one reasons people die in survival situations where they're forced to be displaced or even sheltered in place without power. If you're sheltered in place without power in something like an earthquake, where the structure of your home or wherever you're located at has been compromised. You're sheltered in place, and a tornado has destroyed your building or something like that, or again, you're displaced and you had to actually evacuate your home. The number one reason why people perish in those situations is due to exposure to the elements, either water, very hot temperatures, very cold temperatures. If it's a fire, like wildfires and stuff, people have died trying to make it out of those zones because fire sucks or burns up the oxygen. It uses the oxygen as a fuel, and they die from either smoke inhalation or they die from a lack of oxygen, which is a form of exposure. And so knowing that, someone in California might say my EDC involves a flashlight, it involves a first aid kit, it involves a respirator that can filter out carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and it might include an escape hood. It might include, some kind of a cooling system like cold packs, something that they can use to drop their body temperature if they're overheating. It might include a little bit more water than the average person carries around with them. It might include few different things inside of their first aid kit to deal with burns and things of that nature. You know, it might deal with a certain type of food that helps the body to regulate temperature better. Something that's not going to, you know, overheat the body. So you have to know the weather, and you should pay attention to the weather on a daily basis. So this is a new series I'm doing, survival tips of the day. I intend to do it every day. It might be in the morning. I want to do them every single morning. I might not be able to do it every single morning, but every day I'm gonna try my best to get on here and go live and give you all a survival tip. But that's got to be number one. Well, that's the first thing I thought. Like, you know, let me start with watching the weather, because again, adverse weather events have displaced 3 times as many people in 2020 than conflict or war. 3 times as many, and that's domestic and foreign. You know, that's a big thing. Displacement leads to exposure. Exposure leads to death. Displacement also leads to other conflicts, because as people are displaced, crime rises because people are put out of their homes, and not everyone is able to get the kind of aid that they need. Not sufficient enough aid, and they have to do things that they might not do in order to survive. And so the crime rate raises. People are, you know, migrate or become refugees in areas that they're not familiar with, or they're just not where they live, and the crime in that area rises. So again, the weather has an effect on that. People being turned away from being able to, you know, find refuge in other places brings up conflict. It's just a lot that comes from, you know, what the weather does. So get yourself prepared, family. Take the time to really look at your area. Study the last 40, 50 years, the weather patterns, different things that have come as a response to the weather, and think, if something as major as the things that have happened, the biggest things that have happened in the last 50 years happens again, what will you do? How will you handle that? You know, how people handled it in the past. Do that research, get on it, family. But thank you for tapping in. I'm actually going to get off this, and then I'm going to go live again, because I want to keep this video short. This is just for the survival tip. Then I'm going to go live again just to talk generally. So I'm going to get off this, I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to come back on, family. Thank you, Daniel, KC1 and CF, signing out. Peace.